All right, so this is a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and just so everyone who's here today knows that our sound is really sensitive, so we'll pick up sounds throughout the room. So if you're having conversations, you may be on camera. So the live stream will be available on Facebook and YouTube. And just before we get into our business, as a reminder to everyone, this meeting is run a little bit differently than our regular school committee meetings. So we will spend the first half hour covering school committee business. And then our preliminary budget hearing will start at 6:00 p.m. As such, the public input will be available after the budget hearing. And so anyone who wishes to speak is certainly welcome to do so. It's important that you signed up or signed in to make sure that we have your information. With that said, I will move forward with our regular business. So starting with our meeting minutes of February 15th, 2024, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Danielle and second by Sean. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And I say yes, so that is unanimous. Also, if bills and payroll attached, is that next week? Okay, next week. Our student representative is not here today, so we move forward. We do have a special appearance today by Ashley Niggle, our Assistant Director of PPS. So I will hand it over to you, Dr. Cassidy, to introduce her, and then we'd love to celebrate you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's about maybe 2 meetings ago, I did an extremely poor job explaining a wonderful and well-deserved award that the district had received. It was the excellence in school site services, and that's really where it started to go downhill from there. We brag about this a lot, and as you know, I like to do that. And one of the bigger things, which I'll let Ashley then and Jen Leahy also talk about, is that we are one of only 2 districts in the entire state of Massachusetts ever doing this work. So I want to let that hang for a second, because there's only been 2, Boston Public Schools and us. So without further ado, and so I don't badger all the wonderful work in a technical sense, like I did last time, I'd certainly like to invite Ms. Ashley Niggle and Ms. Jen Leahy to either speak from there or to come down closer, or I'm not sure where you would maybe.
We're gonna have you come down closer.
Hi. So thank you for taking a minute to celebrate this with us. We're very, very proud of it. I'm so glad to have the picture of the majority of the staff there behind you, because that's really where this award belongs. And we're just really grateful. We've continued to grow our mental health services in the district, and it has allowed us to support so many students and certainly prevent a lot of mental health crisis from occurring. And it all started with just starting the universal social emotional screening that we started back in COVID. And we've carried that through, and through that data, we've been able to support a lot of students proactively before they're in the red, which is really nice. And, you know, we're hopeful to keep moving forward and continue to build structures that have multiple tiers of service. And also unite that with a lot of our academic work as well, because with these things working in tandem, it's far more powerful than in silos. And Jennifer Leahy is our school psychologist at the middle school. So I appreciate her being here to help show what work we're doing.
Well, thank you so much. We're just so excited to have you here. This is such an amazing award. I mean, you know, to have the Narragansett Regional School District right up there with Boston Public Schools is really an amazing thing. So please pass on our sincerest thank you to everyone for all the hard work that they put in. You know, you see student mental health in the news all of the time. So to know that we have such an amazing program here, one that's being recognized for its excellence is, you know, such a blessing, especially with so many parents at the table to know that, you know, our kids are all being well taken care of. So thank you so much for your work. And we really appreciate you, and we're so glad you could be here tonight so we can celebrate you, and a little round of applause. Input tonight, is anyone from NDEA? Lisa's not here tonight, so it's just, okay. Sorry, there's a crowd, I had to check. All right. FY24 budget updates. Anne Marie, I'll hand that over to you.
There's nothing really different. It's holding its own, no budget freeze this year, which is an miracle, but we'll take it. Just jump right into the
Jump
report.
right in.
The monthly reports are attached. But I also attached, we received our final invoice from Minuteman Neshoba Health Group. This is the one I had let you know would be coming. It is due by June 30th. This is for the runout claims. It's $420,665. That is going to come from school choice because we had 400,000 budgeted for health insurance in there. This will hopefully be the final bill, but it may not necessarily be because the runout claims run for a period of 30 months, starting July 1st. The group feels that with these numbers that they assessed everybody, they actually took all of their members, how many members each group has, came up with a total, and this is our percentage of the group, which we are one of the larger ones, not the largest, but we're closer to the top than the bottom. They hope that these numbers will cause a little bit of a surplus when this is all over, and hopefully at that end of that runout period, members may get small refunds back. But it's all a moving target because this number is based as of February 9th. This plan runs till June 30th, and anything could happen with a member and claim between now and the end of the year. So we will process this probably in June. We'll keep the money in our account for a while until it's due. No sense in letting them get interest. We'll keep it. But I just wanted to let you know that they did process this invoice, and this is our number.
Just opening it up. Any questions for Anne Marie on that? Okay. Surplus items. Two lifetime ranked universal table craft, 11 sewing machines, 3 fabric irons, 4 ironing boards, 1 embroidery machine, miscellaneous sewing items, and 1 Clark Focus 2 battery powered 28-inch floor scrubber. So I would entertain a motion to surplus those items as listed.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by Sean. Any questions on those? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, and I say yes. So that is unanimous. And now we have another great item to go through. We have our out-of-state field trip request. And who's going to be presenting that tonight?
Madam Chair, I believe that Coach Hazelton will present that, I mean, in terms of why. But before we do it, I'd like to ask one question, if I may. Do you happen to know who the winningest, most successful program in the history of Narragansett.
Have a guess.
It's golf. But it's already got that wrong. But, there is when we leave here tonight, I believe it's the, Trophy case directly outside, I believe it's, I know that it's had to be emptied 3 times since I've been here, because the cheerleaders win so much that they literally have, well, this is so 2000 late, they literally have to get rid of trophies to make room for new ones. In the last 4 years, they have been league champions 8 times, because there are 2 seasons. They have been regional champions 3 times. They've ranked in the state, well, they'll have to tell you, because it's already. But they were, I believe that super duper champs this year, because when you look at the 4 league divisions that compete, they receive the highest score out of every single cheerleading in the state. They're good. And so I know that Coach Hazelton's gonna come down and have some, I don't know, some national championship, again, which is, I think he's the 3rd time I've been, I think it's been the 3rd or 4th time, I really lose track. So if you don't mind, Madam Chair, I believe Hazelton can talk about going ahead.
I would love to hear.
All right. So welcome, thank you. Yes, these amazing athletes behind me are amazing, hard workers. And so we've had an outstanding season. We were league champs. We were central mass champs in our division, but also we were the highest scoring in all of, like, basically west of 495. We just beat everybody. And then last week at states, we went up against the state, we took 5th. But it ranks by score and we have to get above an 80% and we got, the 83 to move on. So we'd like to return back to Hershey Park, which is where we went 2 years ago. We actually placed 2nd there, so we're really hoping to go above and beyond and get our banner for our school. Cause we've never won in all of Kansas history, so we're hoping this could be our year. So that's why we're here.
That would be amazing.
We all hope this will be a
Yes. Yeah, we're also going Sunday to the New England Championship to compete against the state finalists from everyone else, so.
Oh, exciting, exciting. This is amazing. All right, so we have the field trip request in front of us. And I'm gonna give everybody just a minute just to scroll through that. And then see if there's any questions about the submission. Not seeing anybody with questions.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Do they get to like actually enjoy the park?
Only if they win.
Always say.
Then I would entertain a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip for the Narragansett Regional High School cheer team to compete in the nationals competition
So moved.
on.
Sorry.
April 19th through 22nd, right? In Hershey, Pennsylvania, as presented. Motion by Sean. Second by Heather. There were no questions before, so I'm assuming there's no questions now. So all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstained, and I say yes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Can't wait to watch on. Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Well, I must be proud.
No, you gotta stay. We don't sign until the end of the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, like, you're right.
year. Good luck. Guys.
Bye.
Thank you for the news for me. Thank you very much.
Good luck. See you.
The next item on our agenda is, not as exciting, but it's, the school year calendar. So do you want me to talk? With this? Yeah, that'd be great.
So it came to you last month and you approved it, except on that version, Good Friday was counted as a school day. So when the count is correct, it actually puts the last day of school to Friday, the 13th of June. So that's the only change.
So any questions about that change? No, all right, so this will be a quick one. I would entertain a motion to approve the amended 2024-2025 school year calendar update as presented. Motion by me and a second by Sean. No questions, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, and I say yes, so that is also unanimous.
Not as long as it's exciting, so.
State champions.
Okay, curriculum and instruction update, Molly, do you have any updates for us this week? Meeting. Yeah. And Dr. C, you have 12 minutes, for anything you need for your superintendent report.
I will, I'll give that time back, Madam Chair, if that's okay with you.
I can't start the budget meeting.
Okay,
until 6
so-
p.m.
Let me tell you a little story. So as we've, well, to talk about the weather, I don't want to talk about the weather because we just got off the calendar, right? So, we believe that we've, we might have seen our way through a particular, season that we don't ever mention. And that's really helped us out, honestly, with a lot of the work that we've been doing, well, this point in the athletic funds. So they're out there, they're trying to finishing up on the block that we cleared that will eventually be practice fields and we hope to be a softball field. So that's, again, we need to measure it out, but that's what we're aiming to do. The dugouts have been completed, as of, I think, earlier this week. And we just need to do some minor fence work, but the baseball field is complete. The stairs that were put in, through the erosion control, piece by the stands at the athletic field. There'll be some work that needs to be done, but nothing too grand. We've been able to actually get a lot further along with our library project. So what is the library project is that we are going to put air conditioning or ventilation or HVAC into the library. We use the library a lot. And during the shoulder months, as they call them, but May, June, August, and September, we have a lot of kids in there with very little air moving. So that'll definitely, that'll make that space a lot better, a lot more enjoyable than it is, it's money, it's ruining the books, it's ruining, the carpet, we've talked about that. So that's actually been able to, really accelerate a lot of that work. I guess our facilities, is that, it must be.
Yeah.
So we did, I think we might have touched upon this last meeting, but we did in fact submit 2 statement of interests to the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, to get into queue, right, for folks to come out to look at replacing the roof of this structure. We had to submit 2 because technically we are 2 schools, and thus, for whatever reason, we had to fill out 2 of them. So those have been submitted on time. And thanks to Emery, Keith Parker and company for getting all that information together. I think that's it for facilities. I want to make sure I didn't miss any of them.
Yeah, it's just the baseball fields, like, well, the first game is April 3rd, but it luckily gets away. So it buys us probably a couple of days to finish up, but we have, like you said, the dugouts are finished. We have a banner coming to get rid of that ripped green tarp that goes across that back fence. The land clearing, they just came to work actually at 4 o'clock after their regular day and started chipping away on the pile of brush out there. They're hoping to be out of here by early next week and be done. Yeah, I mean, we have something, but most of it will probably not gonna happen over the summer once school's out, not a big project. That lower field will start after July 1st, just to make sure the kids are gone before that all starts.
So,
Practice starts up at Yeoman Wait next week. I was just booking the vans to take them there before the meeting, so. Spring has sprung, hopefully it stays.
one of the things I will mention is that, which has been long gone now, but we fixed the drainage in early spring. We talked a lot about it. We would be underwater still, right now, if that drainage, the field has never been dry. So that alone was such a huge, win for us, quite frankly. So, but I just want to make sure that if we get all the rain we did, see what last week before, we did not even, I don't believe we had a puddle, which is remarkable, given that the dugout was, underwater, last year. So, so anyway, those are actually going to move, I think, fairly quickly. And probably be done a lot sooner than folks that are anticipated. Let's see, what else?
We can have a brief recess if you need.
I'm gonna be short on time, if it's okay.
Go right ahead.
So we are participating with DESI in a pilot project that they're rolling out this year. There's no funding involved. But the DESI's early college, and college and career department is working with a group called College Guidance Network. And they have built a platform that is, will be available for students and parents. The primary audience for the platform is parents, and it's a platform to help parents and students navigate the college application process. And so our guidance team will be working in the next few weeks with the group of folks that are doing the rollout to learn how to present it to students and present it to parents. And in the coming month or so, we'll be having an info session for parents and introducing this platform as a tool to support parents through the process of college applications and financial aid as well.
Oh, great.
So more information to come, but we're in the early stages of getting that rolling.
I am unfortunately one of those people who would need that sooner than later, so. You're really listening. It's fantastic.
And it'll be very, it's very friendly to interface, so we've looked at it a little bit. There's a lot of short videos that are embedded, so if you just have a question about, something specific about filling out your FAFSA form or something specific about the process of visiting colleges, you can click and you can read about it, or you can click, you can watch videos. You can keep track of your progress and where you and your child are in the application process, and it will help support you with informational kind of snippets it pushes out, as well as you can put information in, it'll customize to your needs as well. So,
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay, so do we need to vote to take a recess, Hank, or do we just take a recess?
You can call a recess.
Okay, so I'm gonna call a recess for 5 minutes. I believe the mics stay on, so just be cognizant of that. So if you're going to speak, feel free to step out into the hallway.
We can turn off mics. and
Oh, we can,
Yeah, but it'll stay.
but are we supposed to?
So recess.
Then, fine, yeah, so. We're back. So it is 6 PM, so I would now like to call the preliminary budget hearing for the Narragansett Regional School District to order. All right, so we're going to, I'm gonna hand this over to Dr. Cassavant to lead us through, the budget presentation for FY25. Do we need to be at all concerned with the error message on the screen?
Camera not working.
We're actually streaming, so.
I did say we were gonna have problems the moment you walk towards the door. Can you verify that sound is working and that they can see the? Yeah, here it is. Once again, hand it over to you to lead us through the budget presentation.
Madam Chair. So, you know, we've certainly had a first, go through this a couple weeks ago, but clearly this will be the preliminary, it says it right on the budget, but in terms of our, the beginning of certifying the budget. Satisfying. So, Susie, we're going to.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry. So obviously, this is why, we were thinking about schools, and this is why we're here. We took care, to put the right pictures in, but certainly it identifies some of our the projects that we are most proud of at the high school, with the Project Lead the Way, and that goes across the entire district, but the early college program, et cetera. And that's been, we've worked hard to obtain and to really start to zero in and to provide our students with options, right? So from the very beginning, we want to be able to give our students, regardless of what they want to do, once they graduate, we want to be able to give them options. If it's school, higher ed, yeah, we're working on vocational. But we want them to be prepared. And I think that is really the theme before we even get started. And we'll obviously talk about that as we move forward. Okay, so when we start looking at what do we offer and what are, kind of the highlights of FY25 so far, one of the things that we want to look at and what we are really proud to suggest and to offer is, and I'll start right from the top and kind of work my way around, but we want to make sure that there are no user fees for any of the extra activities that we offer here. And the reason why we want to do that is because we know for a fact that although we have never charged a student who may have some financial or family that has financial, issues, we have never not, have stopped them from participating. But what we know is that there's a stigma to that. And we know that there are maybe parents or students that just don't feel comfortable with that. And there's more than just a handful. And so we've learned that over the last couple of years. And so we want to make sure that if there is someone out there who wants to participate in whatever, whether it be athletics, whether it be extracurricular, band, whatever, that they have the opportunity to do that. And we really, we feel that is something that is very well within our range to do. Athletics, we talked a little bit about that, about the facilities. When we start talking about athletics, we're really talking about, upgrades to the facilities themselves. I was speaking with someone remembers when the dugouts were put in, and I asked, well, how long ago was that? Because I just wasn't sure. And this gentleman has been around a very long time. He says, I don't know, but I was a young man. And so I don't know what that means, but I tend to believe that it was maybe a couple of decades ago. So some of those things, we talked about the lower field, we have to add an additional playing field, an athletic field for our athletes. Special education, we, through the Thrive program, we have brought back several outplaced students. We talked a lot about that. That's been at the high school level. And yep, there was a financial savings to that. It really becomes a deferred cost after the initial time that you do it. But we have seen a savings thus far of $269,000, give or take, in out-of-district transportation costs and of course tuition. Well, $200,000 in tuition and $269,000 in transportation. More importantly, though, these are our kids, and a lot of these students were here, and then they, they were outplaced for whatever reason. We want them back, not for the financial reasons, but we want them back, and we want them back being, warriors, near advanced learners, and it's important to us. And by starting this program, we're being able to do that in very, in selected cases. Health insurance for FY25, we talked a lot about that. We have worked very hard to change our insurance, and we did that. We talked a lot about that, but that's a big highlight. I think that although Anne Marie was talking about the runout claims when it comes to this, we house that, or we have through our insurance. We've been doing this choice fund. We do not want it there. I have to tell you, I didn't see a day that would actually come to fruition. It almost seemed unreachable, just because it's so hard, to make those type of things happen. And we've done that we had a great group of folks across the entire district and all the units, and so that we're actually going to see, it happen. It's really fantastic. We talked about psychological services. You saw Ashley and Jen talk about that today. That has been our focus for many years. Quite honestly, I feel that we have some of the best supports for students, not only just in this area, but around, if you know what I mean. That's important. This community, this district has a bit of I don't want to say a reputation. We've had issues here in this district, and with issues of social emotional issues, etc. It's important that we continue to improve those, to strengthen those, and that obviously is a highlight for FY24, and I know it'll be a highlight for FY25. We offer more services to kids in this district than many districts twice ourselves, and that is something to be really proud of. Curriculum, Project Lead the Way, early college. We increased the offerings from 4 to 15. The early college enrollment has increased from 10 to 40 students. That has really taken off and has been very well received, not only by students, by our kids, but by our parents, who go like, that might save me some money, and it does, and that's important to do. So we put the survey out, probably to date, other than the snow day survey, of when do you want to receive the call? This has received probably the most votes to date. And we, anytime you put a survey out to the community, you kind of go, oh boy, I wonder what they're going to say. And they were very serious about this survey. I believe we got close to 341. Oh, thank you. 341, respondents. And as you can see, maybe I can put my glasses on, but the teacher class student ratio and staff compensation really 1 and 2 throughout the entire survey. And so that was an interesting piece of information to get before we even started the survey, to see where the community sat on these issues. And it really wasn't very close after 1 and 2. All right, so when we start talking about the general fund budget, so we kind of transition into the money things. And what we know is that we have been, because of the increase of students over the past 2 years, which is roughly around 100 additional students, residents, that we found ourselves very quickly our the student teacher ratio was starting to it was starting to be very concerning because kids were coming in so quickly. It was almost like a wave of kids 2 years ago and last year and a little bit this year. So when we start talking about the general fund budget, we do talk a lot about of course we're talking about students because we're a school, but our foundation enrollment, right, is what drives the amount of money we get from the state. We were flat this year. We were -8 kids in the foundation budget, which is, the students that are of school age that live in the towns of Templeton and Phillipston, do not go to public school. And as we spoke last time, those 8 students might have never been here before. They might be students who, were in private schools or otherwise, or school children, and they went someplace else or whatever. What we saw here was almost a 1-for-1, a swap from students at school choice who we have been purposely lowering the number, and we have seen almost kid for kid in terms of resident. And that has been a very interesting thing to watch because it's been uncanny about how many students have been moving in. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But overall, when we start looking at what the total increase, it's 4.99%. Anne-Marie made a great statement earlier today when we were talking about the budget. We have in the past asked for much higher percentages over the years. That's because the amount of money was different, right? So it might be 13%. Again, money is money, but it might have only been a $500,000 or that. It's 5% of this budget is quite an increase. So Phillipston's increase, when you look at how the students break down between towns, it looks to be at 10.81% or $200,000 in a rounding increase. And to Templeton is $1,007,492, which represents a 13% increase. And that's even with saving some money on transportation. When I say some, quite a bit. So when you look at this, transportation actually went down, and then you still had this type of increase. Why? And that's always been, we're gonna get to the why of this. So when you look at the increase and what does it affect? And you look at all of the accounts that are in the general account system for the state, but specifically for us as a school district and every district, you start looking at an 8% increase to the 1,000, which is administration, but school attorneys, etc. Kind of like the that from central office. Instructional is a 12% increase. A lot of what we do is all we do is staff intensive, and so that represents the increases of people or staff that we think that we need moving forward. Other school services, where we actually saw, a decline in that. So I know that the committee has certainly, we have gone through this, we've gone over it a lot, but what I want to show you is that the tuition line and the other school services line are areas that we work very hard to reduce. Mostly, I'm using my quotes, it's special education. So, these are the type of things that we're trying to positively affect the budget with the Thrive program and, making sure that we are diligent in our, the way we assess students and not, where we place them and kind of the accommodations, modifications, etc. But all told, it looks to be a 4.99% increase overall. This is the general fund breakdown, and I don't certainly want to repeat everything, but it really just kind of reaffirms what I just talked about, like the administration of the 1,000 series is really due to increased prices of payroll, onboarding software, auditing service prices increase, attorney cost increases, district software, etc. Transportation, we actually started decline, as we talked about, because there's been a reduction in sped transportation, and the reason why that is because we've been able to keep more kids in-house. Okay, and we also reduced the position of the full-time nurse leader. Maintenance, we saw an increase about, with that, in terms of the 4,000 series, which I think speaks for itself. Benefits, almost break even, etc. So The tuitions and other, which generally the 9,000 series where people just really see gigantic increases because they're usually sped out of district costs. You know, we saw a decline in that where a lot of districts have seen an increase. Now, as I say every year, we are one child away from moving into the district that could double that. To, to the plus. So I just say that with caution, and that's, and that is the risk that any district has when it comes to providing services to students, especially with severe special needs. Revenues. We really talk about two main categories of funds when we do this, right? We talk about the general fund and grants revolving. Lots of folks don't know that, when they see 24 million, they say, oh, that's what, it costs to run the district. It costs $28 million to run the district. And that's because we have grants and revolving funds, circuit breaker, which is a STED. It's an ability to offset costs with out of district placements, federal grants, state grants, school lunches, because that's a revolving account, and other local reasons. So in school choice will play large in our conversation as we move forward, even though we are actively reducing the number of school choice students. And so I say that with a cautionary tale because there are some very important costs within school choice. But if someone were to ask you, hey, how much of it do you think it's going to cost to run the district next year with everything that you need? It's going to cost $28 million, but $3 million of that comes from various sources. Really, the next page, without going over it too much, is that this is where what monies are we talking about? What do they fund? School choice covers 9 teachers, staff, PD, athletics, supplies, technology, upgrades, HVAC. These are one-time, in a perfect world, we would like to keep one-time costs out of school choice revolving. One time, need a driveway, it's not, right? You don't want to put two things in school choice revolving: insurance and teachers. Almost every district I know around here has teachers in school choice because in order to help offset the cost to the towns or city, etc. We are certainly no different. We are very open about that. I don't know what other districts talk about, but we're very open about how we spend our money. Every year we detail that. The circuit breaker, again, is a reimbursement structure for excessive special education costs, and what they do is they set a standing rate like $45,000 and X amount of dollars over that. They will hopefully reimburse you, but that always comes at the end of the year, and we're quite we've been told many times it's generally what they can afford, the state can afford. So sometimes we get X percentage, this or that. Federal grants, we do a lot with grants, so doesn't everyone else, but Title I, early childhood grants covers, 3 Title I teachers, sped pairs, and out of district tuitions. And by the way, that's what those grants are for, right? So Title I is supposed to pick up those type of services and the early childhood. Nursing grant provides the district with resource nurse and academic support person. So we generally use that for our sub nurses, and again, the academic support person that's up at the high school that helps with students who are having difficulties, earning credits. And that's been wildly successful. Other receipts, what we talk about is preschool extended day programs, covers 1 teacher pairs. A lot of these things are revolving, and so whatever we take in, they go out. And so that's what we put under other. All right, so trying to stay with the whys. What is our goal? So why is this costing so much money? Like, why are we asking for almost 5% increase, which is, well over $1 million? Well, Chapter 70 held harmless. We talked about that, and we'll get into that. But we didn't receive as much money. We didn't have more kids than we did last year, and that is how Chapter 70. The majority of it is structured. If you get more kids like we did last year, 60 or 56 kids plus, although income bracket was much lower, we received $1.1 million. When you are flat like we are, they're only going to give you the minimum. Student enrollment in class size, increased special education enrollment. Although we have reduced special needs costs in the areas of transportation and sending kids out to placements, we have seen, I think, over 2 years, a 2% increase, and I always look to Molly, but where we're at 21% currently, especially.
For special ed?
Yep.
We're at 20.6, let's say 20.6, just, it's
Just-
just around the 21%, but it's the first time we've been over 20%.
Right, and we've seen a big increase, when I say the 2%, I think it was over 2 years, we've seen that increase. And that is where we had the positions mid-year, although we have not been able to fill those positions, which speaks to staffing. And the bottom, which we'll talk about as well, is the whys. So the chapter 70 impact, the circle that you can't see very well, but there you go. That's the total number of kids, students who are accounted in the foundation enrollment. Okay. Low income group was 8 last year, it dropped to 7. That's problematic. Well, no, it's not problematic. From a money standpoint, it's problematic because multipliers are special education, ELL students and low income groups. Last year, we had far more low income students, and that increased that low income group to 8, and that was a multiplier. Okay, it gave us more money with the kids that we had. Many of us been doing this a while, knew that when they did the audit for when they sent out the little blue envelopes for SSI benefits, because you had to recertify last year, and there's this big marketing campaign. Many of us, the state included, knew that those numbers were going to probably drop because it hadn't been able to be recalibrated since COVID. So there were multiple people being added, but nobody was being taken off because through the natural ebb and flow of these things. And we knew last year, once the blue envelopes went out, that we would most likely see a decrease. And we did. Our district saw a decrease in the students who are identified as low income. Student enrollment, talk a lot about student enrollment, right? A lot. So there's 2 things. There's how many kids you have in seats in front of you, right? Those are in-house. Then we've talked about foundation. So I'll make sure I try to be as clear as mud as I go through all this, but the chapter 70 increase of only 39,000, that has to do with how many kids were identified as living in either town or school eligible. So we were flat. So the amount of kids that we got in was pretty much, what we got last year, and with a couple. I think there was 120 some odd districts that had fewer kids than they did last year. We were at the very top of the list as losing the least, or having a lower number, where districts were losing 100, 250, whatever. So we were up pretty high on all those districts. So we held the amount of kids that we had the last 2 years, which is interesting. We talked about the decreasing age students. The low income category, we talked about going from 8 to 7. We talked about why. Housing is, if you ever thought I was going to be tracking the number of houses that were being built in a town, if you said that to me 5 years ago, I'd be like, I'm not doing that. That's not my job. Oh, it's my job. Because you start seeing some things happening and going, oh boy, all these houses, those kids, 3 bedrooms, you can only have, 1 man cave, as far as I know. And so those other bedrooms are going to be filled at some point with students. So the other part too, which I don't want lost at all, because it's important, but because we're talking about FY25, generally people forget the things in the past. We are still catching on from the number of students, residents that we have received over the last 2 years, which has been 100. And we did not add staff last year via the budget. We had to add staff out of absolute need, so we would not fall out of compliance. But we are still trying to catch up. And if students come in at a trickle, that's even further and further behind. And when you're talking about the future, it's hard to talk about the past at times. I don't want to lose that. I want to almost like pause, not pause, but make sure I put a big emphasis on this. No matter what, we are still trying to catch up from where we're, okay? So when we start talking about enrollment, what I, these crazy graphs that I do, I want to just be open and honest. It's easy for me to say 100 kids and you're like, how do I know? Right? Well, first off, it's all public record. You can get this in the courts all you want. But the fact is, when you start looking at these, and even if you take FY21, which did it even exist? I don't know. That's COVID year. People didn't even know where children were. So you can add it or not add it. It doesn't matter. I just made sure that people say, look, this is COVID. I'm here. And if you look at the plus minus difference was 95. We reduced the number of school choice kids by 37. So normally I replace whatever we lose when the high school graduates. Do that. Well, because where was I going to put them? And we have not accepted a school choice student at elementary going on now 4 years. Next year, if everyone stays the same, we will have, I think, 4 school choice students out of close to 600 kids or 500, whatever it ends up being. We only have 4 school choice students in all of the elementary. That's something, quite frankly. So I guess when we start looking at the plus minus difference, you get around 67. In a district this size, that's a lot. Especially where they end up. And where did they end up? At that time, depending on what year you're talking about, 3rd and 4th grade. They're huge. Current 5th grade is 136 students, 136 students, 129 of them, I believe, I'll double check this, are residents. We do not have a class bigger than that, but one's close is the 4th grade, and then a little bit closer is the 6th grade. They're big classes. When this graduating class of 24 graduates with 60 some odd students, we will not have a high school class to include the 8th grade under 98 or 95. That is, I don't know when that was the last time that happened. I know it has, but it hasn't happened in the 6 years that I've been here. 8, going on 8 years. That is a big increase, and they are mostly residents. So anyway, we try to break it down in as many ways if you want to see it, like where are they growing? Well, it's not just Templeton, although Templeton has seen the largest increase. Phillipston is supposed to, and it oscillates depending on what day of the week people come and go. They do all the time, even in a small district. Where we're close to 200 kids from Phillipston, which is obviously, if you look back, it's one of the higher years that we've seen. And Templeton continues to grow. And again, we still have school choice, but if you look at that, we have reduced school choice from almost 100 kids less than we were back in 20. Number of enrolled students versus foundation, almost like just to make sure that, just literally reward the heck out of many, but to sell this on is that if you look at the enrolled and you look at foundation, you already know that we have reduced the number of school choice kids by 80 or whatever. And you look at this, the enrolled students were supposed to go down. Enrolled students were supposed to go down. You see that we have some elementary teachers up in the back and in the middle here. When they cut the teachers, when we cut staff down to 4, the plan would have worked. It would have worked. We would have reduced the number of school choice kids by the number that we did. Those classrooms would have been a little on the full side, but if the progression was as the projections went, it would have worked because those numbers were supposed to reduce that, and they were. We were going to cut 100 to 150 school choice kids. That would have worked. It didn't happen. For every school choice student that is no longer, it's no longer in this district, almost to the child, we have received a resident. And they're coming. So that number was supposed to go down. It didn't. It actually went up a lot. So if you look at FY22, when we start coming out of the haze of COVID, you go, oh, okay, a little bump there. Then all of a sudden FY23, you're at 1486. And then FY24, basically 1478, depending on what month you look at, it's pretty much flat, right? Just like foundation. And that's because housing kind of stopped for a while because money was tight and inflation. We're going to talk about housing. I already told you we're going to talk about housing. We're going to talk about housing in a minute. When we start looking at school choice, The big line I want you to look at is the blue line, 63. That is the pupil differential. I've got to keep that on the plus side. Why? I've already said, we got 9 teachers coming out of school choice. I've got to keep that revolving fund positive. So it becomes tricky now. Because now I'm supposed to replace this, these kids, in very strategic points. I have to do so in mind to try to keep this, the differential correct or on the plus side. But if you look at this, since 2021, pardon me, 22, we have seen a massive decrease in kids' school choicing out. That is a credit. Everyone up on that end of the stage, not on, on this, they like what we have to offer. Teaching. We do a very good job of what we do. People like it's safe, it's small, it's, people know their kids, people are, they want in. We close the building in terms of school choice, but they actually have a residence here and that's why, a lot of reasons why they're coming to us, and that's a credit to, of course, our educators. When I try to talk about anticipated enrollment projections, I don't like to do projections. I hate it. Why? I know I have to do them because so much changes. The chair is looking at me here. He said, "You love projections. You have to love projections." But so it's hard to do. She's trying to convince me that they're good. I say they're bad because I never know. But because they're not. I'm so concrete when it comes to these type of things. But when I look at the first grades 1 through 4, so we just took a little sample. In that kindergartens, we don't really know, right? Kindergarten is like, well, I don't know. Here they come. I think I don't know. That we start seeing that if as of January, we had 432 kids, at TES. Remember, grades 1 through 4. Projected, by the way, all I did was graduate order. I didn't add anybody. I just said, okay, if you're a kindergarten, first grade, I just moved everybody over. You're starting with 407. I smile because if you look at the little note to the left, when we do our projection, when we look at the census, and Terry does that like an expert, it shows that their resident age list shows 248 pre-K eligible students. The classic line is, well, they all don't come here. They're not going to get all 248. Well, we have to add a full day kindergarten. That's full. We have all of our other variants of, the kindergarten pre-K. Sorry, I did that again. The pre-K program, they are full and there are people waiting, just waiting to get in. That's a projection, which I don't like. But that is literally what Terry has to look at and say, well, gee, if X comes in, then, whatever. So I say this as a cautionary tale because I don't know what we will have until May, because that's when we do kindergarten, registration-ish around that time frame. Which just as an aside, I think we're going to have to do that registration much earlier, because given the number of kindergarten eligible and pre-K eligible kids, I can't wait to then, because we are now, that's where they're coming. So, but that's just something for next year. See, I'm projecting. So addressing class size. What are we going to spend the money on? The high school absolutely is the #1 priority, period. I'm just going to say that out loud again for the third time. There is no situation in this district right now that is a higher priority than the high school. The 8th grade needs a teacher like you read about. They're part of the high school program, but the sheer numbers of kids that have come through, the numbers next year, even when you factor in all the things like Monty Tech or whatever, that high school is really, really full in terms of the class sizes. Now, yep, we've all been to high school. Many, I'm sure, of folks out here in the audience have taken AP courses. We all know that there are AP classes of 10, sharper, but there are also general classes and college level classes of history, math, etc. that are sitting at 25, 26, whatever the case may be. That's why they're AP. That's why they're lower numbers, because, they're dealing, they're doing space math, or whatever the case, but where it's a very limited amount of kids who are going to be, just willing to take that level of math. But our general kids, our general kind of populous kids are in classrooms that are very, very large. The Monty Tech after Dharma teacher, which people go, what? One of the last things that we were, kind of like the goal is that we are, thanks to Molly, has worked very hard on an opportunity with Fitchburg and Gardner to offer vocational services to our juniors and seniors. And it's a very low number of kids, but they would go and receive, like juniors would say, go on, one week, and then seniors would go the next week. Well, when they're back, by the way, they would stay ours. Those are our kids, and we get to pick them, which that is important to me. I'll be very candid.
I don't believe that our special needs students are represented. Or any special needs student is represented appropriately in Monty Tech. I've said it to their face, I've said it to their school committee, and I will say it here again. And so we know that that's a program that doesn't currently exist. And we also know that if we do not sign up for it, Gardner and Fitchburg, aren't they nice? They will take our slots. We don't blame Gardner and Fitchburg. Of course, they won't take our slots. And so we would have to wait 2 years before we offered this again. Okay, but it's important, I think, to a lot of kids who were not selected. And again, I'll get off of that. The middle school music teacher, and literacy teacher. Literacy is academically probably our number one priority, concern, goal, focus. Whatever word you'd like to use. The music teacher is one because we're trying to build, trying to be balanced as we add opportunities for kids and teachers and kids. We know that the middle school had 2 music teachers, and they need to. And we don't currently offer what I would consider a chorus program, a dedicated choral program, etc. There's a lot of other things that we can do there, and that has been something that we're trying to desperately get back. I will be very candid. It's also a numbers issue. There's probably no school that has, more of an issue of overcrowding in the middle for next year. They will have 2 of the 3 largest classrooms, and it's about, getting kids, kind of spreading out, spreading the wealth a little bit. In terms of how many teachers they have. Music made the most sense, obviously, because it's something that we definitely want to get back to. TES, the 3 ABA pairs, or kindergarten pairs that happen to be ABAs, whatever you like to say it. We've been able to find 2. We've been able to find resources for 2. It's important that we add those last 3 so that there would be 1 per classroom, or at least 5 for the entire kindergarten, however you'd like to look at that. And that certainly is a priority. Which comes to a grand total of $398,805. Okay. So I don't again, because sometimes it can become overly competitive, but here is exactly why, yes, we said these teachers, but here's the, writing why, right? We have currently 6 teachers. Okay, so why the high school? Like, why the high school? I mean, come on. Well, currently we have 6 teachers who are teaching an extra class, okay, which is unsustainable, where we cannot sustain it. Yes, they receive a stipend. Yes, they do. They give up their prep and they teach something out of their content area. We are going to burn out our teachers. We're going to burn them out. We're talking about high school level classes. We're talking about credit bearing classes. And I will say to you that if the true hero in all this, yeah, they get a stipend. I don't want to take that away, but they don't have to do this. And if they didn't, we would be in trouble. Big trouble. So there's another need down the road. And we know that we can satisfy some of that with the positions that we're talking about here today. But the teachers have really stepped up. I believe there's one at the middle school who actually is, I think there's 2 folks, special education wise, we're doing extra. The middle school, I think we've talked about that enough. The music program, of course, and literacy is absolutely academically our top priority. Most kindergarten classrooms have paraprofessionals supporting the classrooms. We do not. You find a kindergarten classroom that doesn't have some type of para support, please let me know, because I want to, commiserate with that poor person as well. And plus, we're seeing a steady increase of eligible pre-K students. By eligible folks, I'm talking about special needs. So you remember, that we must support students with special needs who are pre-K, whether you do that in-house or you find services outside of your district, but that is what's the law. Community requesting these or something. So we threw this in, we updated. So if I think back 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, how many years ago, I tried to walk it out, when the override happened and, you know, someone said, we have some of the lowest paid teachers in the area, and they said, well, prove it, and I didn't have proof, and you don't even know what your teachers make, but trust me, I knew that our teachers were low paid. And so this summer, I decided to do a little project, and it's gotta be, it must be in everybody's home, because I've presented and sent it out so many times. But one of the bigger problems in there, it's twofold. One, it's compensation, absolutely. Two, the teaching field is starting to see some cracks in terms of its in terms of the machine that make teachers, right? College programs are not putting out teachers in, you know, as many teachers as they used to. There is definitely a shortage, except for a lot of reasons we don't need to go into here. This is how many education people that I am looking for currently right now, and this is of this week, right, Susan? Or is it this week? It was last week. We had to get it to the school committee. But I can tell you that I could probably just bet pretty good money that I'm gonna have the same position open next week. So and we have been looking for a special needs teacher at the elementary, so I can move the special education teacher up to the middle school. Now for, I don't know, I think it's 3 weeks. It's gotta be more than that. It's gonna be a month. I have not had one application. January. Deborah's just lying to myself at this point. So January, okay? So the fact of the matter is that I can't even hire, I don't even have someone to interview. Okay, so that's problematic, and that's happening in some very specialty areas. When you flip the page, what am I calling it? You already have. So I compared, I believe these are administrative salaries, and I believe the next are teachers, interchangeable. Obviously, I compared everyone's salary with the districts that are around us. Who do we compete with? Okay, we call them sometimes the family, but you know, Ash West, Athol, of course, Narragansett, Winchendon, Gardner, and then Quabbin. Okay, and so that's who we compete with the most, and on a lot of levels. And we were last in almost everything. And what I want folks to remember when they look at these sheets or they share them, the discrepancy is to the average, not the top. That's even more concerning. So when it says 4.9%, looking at, okay, again, okay, 4.81%, you know, that's from the average, the difference from the average. Now, you know, per the contract, we had negotiations set aside, and I'm not gonna discuss that now, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, even, you know, that I need to be competitive as well, right? So, and that, by the way, administrators and teachers. So it becomes an issue later on when you're trying to attract folks that, you know, need obviously desperately, and everyone is competing for the same ones. And so that's something that we're gonna have to address. And by the way, that's really gonna be over a period of time, right? Because everyone understands, and the NDEA is great, we have good conversations about this. We understand how we're going to have to attack this. And, you know, because you don't have, you know, just not unlimited funds. So we're working our way through that. Houses. 40 houses, in the last 2 years, full permits. In town, 24 in Phillips, in various forms or degrees of their structure. Like maybe just the foundation, maybe it's just, I don't know, the house is built. It's hard to know because we didn't get into that. But either way, if you have 40 houses, and this was, cut the date off of February. It was the date in February. I think it was like February. Yeah, it was February 9th. We said, okay, February 9th, that's it. And you know, because I got these 3 pending, we just said, no, let's just do February 9th. Well, then looked at this number, I was like, oh boy, right? And these are a lot of houses. And so then
we did not even include the Baldwinville School Housing Project with 54 units, right? And the 11 over 55, we didn't, and we did not include the over 55. So we're not trying to game the system. We're not trying to bloat the numbers. We clearly said, look, I don't know, but if you got more than 1 or 2 bedrooms, they're going to be kids. And what I said openly, in open session and in other areas, is that what concerns me about the Baldwin School Housing Project, not that it's going to exist, not at all. But when those do fill, that is going to be an instant surge of kids, right? Everybody moves in and they come to school. That's not like these houses in a way where, although it's happening like this, but they'll just come. Now, look, it is what it is. They could be evenly spread over 13 grades, K through, through the season. That can happen. It hasn't. I don't know what was going on in the 5th grade, the year when they were born. I don't want to know, but there's 136 of those kids. Okay, that's what I know. And a lot of them are residents, so I don't know. I don't think there was a blizzard or anything, but they could have. So the fact is that we are watching this a lot more closely now than we ever have, because we are trying to project as best as we can, which is hard, obviously, because we're not going to go house to house. Anne Marie took me on a tour. I know the area, but I didn't really know a lot of it and where they're building houses. And so took me around to where they're building houses or they have built houses. It was, I say it's impressive, because I just didn't know that there was that much building going on, in both ends, quite frankly. So we end with this because the level service, because, traditionally, you can never lose ground, right? And, well, that's the goal. And there have been times when the district has had to do it. There have been times when the district has either been forced to do that or has done that, just because, whatever. The fact of the matter is, let's put aside the fact that we're still making up for the 2 years that we were not able to have teachers, which I want to say again. Level service is almost not an option. It's not an option. It's not an option. I have so many kids, especially right now at the middle of high school, it is not an option. By hook or by crook, I need teachers at the middle of high school. One way or another, level service is not an option. And to go below level service, honestly, I can't even hear that. It's not possible. It's not possible. And so questions were asked, which is fun, about, well, what could you lose in order to gain back a classroom teacher? Nothing. Where? And I challenge people, point to something that is not relevant or important, or whatever the word that they want to use. And I gotta tell you, I think I got a pretty good answer for all of this. People came and we talked it all out. I don't think many people understand how interconnected some of these auxiliary services are to the greater good in terms of either SPED testing or special education testing, et cetera, et cetera. So I think once people got that conversation we had, and they're like, oh my God, this really kind of affects everything. We really don't have someone just kind of in this really cool job that, we really don't need. So I say that, and, there's the summary in the back, in terms of everything I've just honestly said. But quite honestly, I don't, there's not a way that we can go level service, and I have communicated that to both towns. I am. So, Madam Chair.
So Dr. Nesbitt's handing it over to me at the moment, and because before we get to school committee, comments or questions, I did want to give everybody a quick update. So knowing that increases we were looking at were as steep as they were, we called, for a chairs meeting, between Templeton, Phillipston, and the school district, so that we could have another conversation following our presentation to the towns that was in February. And, what I will say is that it was a really positive meeting. Everyone was getting around the table. Everyone was, kind of sharing in this challenge that we all mutually have, because this increase in students is because of an increase in residents, and that increase in residents creates other needs across our towns. It's not just hitting the school, it's hitting our fire department, it's hitting our police station, et cetera. And we needed to have a further discussion because we really needed to kind of come together, because what the school district absolutely did not want to see was that any critical funding that would need to go to those, I'm gonna call them safety services, emergency services, was going to be used to meet our funding requests. That said, what we did hear from Templeton is that they could not imagine a scenario under which they could meet all of our requests. And so what they would like us to consider, and what I will ask Anne Marie to follow up with for our next meeting, is a scenario under which we cut down our asks to bare bones. So what does that mean? So actually, if I can ask the person who's controlling the slides, I'm not sure who that is, to go back to slide 20. Just give me a moment. So, you know, Dr. Cassian and I had a conversation about what does bare bones mean. Bare bones means cutting that Monty Tech After Dark teacher. It's a program we really wanted. It's a program the community really wanted. As you heard, it's a program that Molly worked really hard to bring to the community. That said, it's not a program we offer today. And so the first thing we look to cut is the programs that don't even exist in our school system. So that is one of the proposed cuts that we make. The other is those ABA pairs for kindergarten. This one hurts, I know, because we've been wanting those. We wanted those last year. We pushed them in the hopes that they would get funded this year. Unfortunately, what I will say is we did put all of our, I'll say, additional resources. So we really was replacing ESSER funds, but at the end of the day, it was additional resources. We needed to keep those positions. We put them all towards the elementary school last year. And so we need to prioritize our high school and our middle school. So that leaves 3 positions. And really what we're hearing from those towns is they think they can do 2. They think they can do 2 of those, which at this point would be 1 of our middle school UAs and 1 at the high school level. So, you know, I mean, there's no guarantees. Obviously, we're still asking for additional monies. We're still asking for a lot of monies. But, you know, this is what we're being asked to consider as a school committee. And I will be honest that the budget that we agreed upon in the finance and facilities meeting was to accommodate all of these positions. Now, what I will say is that there was a broad recognition that what we're doing is continuing to kick this can down the road. That is not what anybody wants to be doing. I want to be really, really clear. That there was a lot of, you know, frustration, and that's what we're kind of doing every year. And a lot of questions asked about, well, what is the town doing? You know, we are hearing that the town is looking into rezoning some areas because you can only fund so much with residences. I don't know what that will look like or what that will mean. I don't sit on those boards. We also know that they want to start having conversations about fiscal year 26 as soon as possible. So their best is for more projections, which is, as you heard, Dr. Casavan's favorite. So that we can, because we're all recognize we need to have these conversations a lot sooner. That's difficult for a school to project. I laugh because I've learned over the past 3 budget seasons just how difficult it is for the school to project. I can't tell you the number of times people say to me, I just want a 5-year projection. And I said, well, that's really difficult because the kids aren't even born yet who will be in the kindergarten that year. So I don't know how you want me to project population growth. So, you know, I realize that those are a lot of cuts to what's here. So what I am thinking in this moment is, you know, I would like to see what the budget would look like with that 1 high school and that 1 middle school teacher. I know that Dr. Casavan just said that there really is no room, but I'd also like to see, I know that we were talking about putting money in like stabilization funds, for example, which I do not want to cut from, but we also really need that second middle school teacher. And so I know this isn't what anyone wanted to hear, it isn't what I wanted to sit at the table and talk to everybody about, but I also can tell you that schools that go for overrides by themselves generally fail. They are not successful when they go without the towns. And I can also tell you that if we push for a budget that the town doesn't think it can afford, we can put ourselves in the position of going into 112. Which can be really harmful for our district, and can mean that we don't get anywhere near the funding that we really need. So again, not the news I want to be sharing, but I did want to be transparent with everyone about what was talked about at the chairs level. To share, that our towns are struggling. To make sure that they can spread that funding to where it needs to be. And we absolutely, we need those safety services in the school, and the community needs those safety services. So we cannot be the reason that those are not funded. So considering that, I would open it up to the school committee first, for any questions or comments. Sean?
Dr. Caspian, and it's just more of a clarification for me. We haven't actually hired any of these, so I guess my question becomes, there's no cuts on the table currently, right? This is just positions that we will not have hired yet, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. And then my second is, and maybe this is for the community, because I was having a conversation outside of here with a lot of people. Could you explain like level service and what the town is currently offered, so that way there are people understand, and versus the ask, so that way there are people understand what level service means, because that's a phrase that not a lot of people are familiar.
You're right, and I should have been more clear. Level service literally is every staff member we have right now. Right, so if level service is what we have right this minute, then level service is providing a budget rate that will just keep all the same number of staff in their positions. So there'll be no ads and no subtractions, all right? But that is in fact what level service is.
So as a follow-up, if we didn't meet to level service, then there wouldn't end up being cuts across the district.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the.
Anything
these are the
below
points that
level
I wanted to bring
service
up.
means that's right, exactly.
Thank you.
I think it's helpful to point out that level services doesn't mean that number is static, that cost increases.
Of course it does. Everything else still goes up, right? So we all know, right? Insurances, we have contracts, we have teachers in our UFCW folks, we have, so there's salary increases, of course, there are those type of increases. It's just that you're not adding additional staff to add on to those numbers. Exactly.
Thank you.
And that number's high. So let me just be clear that when you look at this level service number, you're still looking at, it's an increase to Templeton for $668,000 in rounding. It's $141,000 and rounding to Phillipston. So it's still a lot of money. In other words, it's still more than, it's still a lot, I should say. Yes.
Let me just ask, so with the understanding the level funding, okay?
Yeah.
But some of our positions, if I'm not mistaken, are still grant funded positions, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are several. There are the nursing program and the entitlement grant, the Title I grant,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So how long are those positions going before they're no longer funded? Do we have to reapply for these every year?
Good question. Nursing grant is good for the next, it's a 10-year cycle.
It's a 10-year grant,
Yeah.
I believe we're going into year 6.
Okay.
So Title I is entitlement that comes every year, and it's based primarily on number of low-income students. And we don't have to find that number out until July or June or July. It's always late. But Title I is I would say it's as healthy as you can get from a federal rate.
Well, I mean, it's a concern that the church is so just.
Well, if you drop so low in terms of your low income, that it can start affecting, you might not be school-wide, you might have to go into,
Our projected numbers for Title I look slightly lower.
so we don't know though, so we don't wanna, ring the bell, ring the alarm.
Kat had a question, so.
Yeah, that's also, I also have questions about that because a lot of these houses that are being built are very expensive. They cost a lot of money. We have people coming in with money, so we're gonna be lowering probably our poverty level, right? Maybe, I don't know, with all that housing that's coming in. I wanna know specifically about like classroom sizes. What's our max in this district?
Per the contract, I would have to write it out, and I don't know.
What if we go over that?
Then it's a conversation with we are.
We can't, so we can't actually legally,
Well, there's no, yeah, so.
right, like host these kids.
Yeah, it's a
Without-
suggestion. We try very hard to keep the number below the numbers that are listed in the contract, which I would have to.
I would read my head in front of me. But you know, generally speaking, yeah, you don't wanna go with, of course, you wanna go over 30. Okay, no one is at 30, but those, when you start getting into those verified care numbers, those are very, very difficult to manage.
And just as a point of clarification, it's a contract level, not a DESI legal level that we're talking about.
What's the
And
best?
so,
There isn't one? Wow. It is for any grade. I feel like there's definitely definitely legal levels for early childhood, like. you have to-
Accreditation doesn't have a required number?
Yeah, there's definitely, there's this.
Those are DESI, that's
Sure.
definitely, only in preschool though, like.
That's healthy though.
Yeah, there's, again, preschool, there are some grades that absolutely has some staffing.
I'm just asking for
Special
clarification
education.
only because I'm nervous about like our projected numbers
So
and
what
like what.
is that rather than conjecturing about, kind of what this is and what the specifics are, we could absolutely, Kat, ask for a slide for next time that details what's in the contract today, and if there's any DESI levels or some information on that. Because I just want to make sure that we're talking in the facts and what is, as opposed to, talking about what we think is.
So I have, but I will have a slide.
Let's do that. I'll make it a whole conversation for next time, but it's a great question, Kat.
Yeah.
This,
Sean, I am sorry, I'm sorry, I'm hard to. So like our classes increase, right? And we have kids that are very high needs in special ed with trauma or whatever, because we've talked about the increase in those students in our district. We also have requirements of teachers being able to meet standard scores, right? Like they have to meet a certain score before a state steps in to then like basically flip us or wipe us out. Like I want to make sure that we don't like go below certain scores and the state steps in to have to like make us what we are already. Do you know what I'm saying?
Under the FS, I think what you're referring to are the school accountability percentiles.
Yeah.
that come out with DESI. We were a little nervous last year with our accountability score for TES. We were below the 20th percentile. And I don't know if you remember back to, I think it's October, November, when I presented our MCAS update from last year's MCAS scores. We were slightly above 20th percentile for TES based on the growth patterns from, honestly, it's one cohort of students because the only cohort in that building that will show growth in our fourth grade because they don't have a growth pattern in third, this is the first year they take the assessment. So that's a concern, but that's something we're working hard on. We put a lot of data practices in place across the district so that we are adjusting our instruction along the way so that we're not just waiting till that MCAS score to figure out, what students need. But that we're a ways from that. But yes, that would come from our test scores. It wouldn't come from class size. It wouldn't.
Well, I mean, I feel like class size would impact that. That's what I'm saying, is that makes me nervous because certainly a lot of kids need special, extra teaching, specialized instruction. And if you have 30 kids and one teacher and no paras, where is that extra time coming from? Teachers outside time, or other teachers volunteering, like weekend time, like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm only supporting our schools and our teachers for this reason of questioning, but.
Yeah, our Title I staff, our special education staff provide a lot of those services, and we have a what I need now win intervention block where teachers provide small group targeted instruction at our elementary level. In our middle school level, we've had to, as Dr. C mentioned, mid-year hire another fifth grade reading interventionist because we're out of compliance meeting services because our needs are growing so quickly. We have challenges filling the position. And then part of what we're proposing with this unified arts literacy position is to help meet that need as well. At our high school level, we put in last year with some grant funds and after-school tutoring program for literacy tutoring that two of our teachers ran. And our teachers do a lot of work in office hours outside of school time, connecting individually with students and then putting action plans in place to support what they can for additional remediation or support during the school day. But it's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah, on slide 3, Dr. Cassidy, you mentioned something about and probably not as relevant to this conversation, just I gotta understand what the deferred cost of 269,000 is. And what do you mean by deferred? Does that mean we're just kicking that 269 later?
Education derived.
Yeah.
So the Thrive program that the special ed department put in, they brought back a number of students. So for FY25, our out-of-district tuitions compared to FY24, I'm actually going to be able to lower our out-of-district tuitions by 269,000. Well, the 269,000 is the transportation for the out-of-district students. And I'm able to save 200,000 in tuitions because they're no longer out of district, they're in district.
Gotcha, okay.
So those two numbers put together gives our bottom line budget a savings of almost $500,000.
That's fine. He used the word deferred and defer makes me nervous.
Yeah, that was like, kind of like last year, because like when
Gotcha.
they come back, there's always a chance they could go out, so there is technically a cost that could come with them, so it's here, but it is a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
So mine is more just a comment. This is my second year on the school committee. Last year is the first time that I participated in the budgeting process, and I was genuinely surprised that what we asked for, because we absolutely needed it, was something that we ended up having to go back and modify for the betterment of the town, because we knew that making sure that we maintained funding for all of the agencies in town was important. And when we agreed to do that, I was confident that the towns understood that we had basic needs that were not met that we were deferring to for this year. So once again, we're in a situation where we know that the towns have tremendous burdens on them right now. But the most important asset that anybody has in this town is our children. And we are once again faced with not being able to fund our schools for the essentials. We're not asking for things that are over the top. These are things that we need to provide basic educational services for our kids. But I know that we're gonna come back next week and we're gonna look at a bare bones budget proposal. It doesn't feel good. I know it needs to happen. So I guess what I'm using my time to talk for is I'm putting a plea out to the people of both towns to make sure their voices are represented at town meeting. And I know it's, for my generation at least, it feels like such an antiquated process that we have to go to a town meeting and sit and listen and vote. But it is the way that towns do things. And it is important that you show up and that your voice is heard. Because we cannot continue to defer what we're asking for to fund the school district. We're getting ourselves into some pretty tough situations right now. And it has to be dealt with, and it's not just the schools, it's the police department and the fire department. It's every single agency in this town that needs the people of Phillipston and Templeton to step up and to have their voices represented at town meeting. So that we're not putting ourselves in a situation where the youngest community members are being impacted the most.
Yeah. So as many of you know, I work for Commonwealth in higher ed, okay? So I truly understand the cost of stretching a dollar. I know what it takes to maintain a facility, and I know what it takes to hold it together, okay? That said, I'm also a taxpayer, a homeowner, and the head of a household, so I also understand what it takes to keep your head above water. However, I also understand what it will cost this district if we do not fund this budget. Alone, over the past few years, we've had a significant increase in special ed enrollment, 21.6%, which equals 25 students or 25 IEPs, okay, in a single year. Think about that. 25 additional special ed students in a single year. Madam Chair, although I appreciate your request, or actually maybe not your request, but it's still a request to eliminate the kindergarten parents. I feel this is simply not going, I feel this is simply going to exaggerate the problems we're experiencing. We all understand, or at least hopefully we understand, that the cost of educating our students can be expensive. However, the reality is the cost of special programs, special teachers, special technology to help support these special needs students is extraordinary. Class size is very important to our community. I've been hearing it for years, for parents for years now. It's the number one concern I hear when I'm out in the community. It was highlighted again in the poll that the district sent out. In my opinion, the request for additional staffing to help maintain these class sizes is a must. The TRI program that we're just talking about. As Chris stated, we were able to bring these students back. We were able to attract or reattract these students. This is amazing. And this is in great part due to the supports that we've been able to improve throughout the years. We collectively, district has been extremely creative and has worked extremely hard to get to the point where we are today. And we are not done. In order for us to maintain this district, to continue to move this district forward, and to support our students, we all, this committee, this community, and our partner towns, need to support this budget as presented. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thing to face, you know, trying to figure out what we can ensure passes if we don't end up in that 112 situation. Because I agree that every single position we put on here is an essential position. I think last year you heard me talk a lot about, we don't ask for new bicycles, we ask for underwear and socks. And I stand by that. So if we can take a look at that, and then I don't know if there's anything we can do to find space for a third teacher. But let's take another look next week. And, we will look at this together. So as a committee, and decide on moving forward. With that said, I do want to open up for public comment, public input. Before we do that, I am just going to remind the folks who are here that about just some of the policy around public comment. So as a reminder to everyone, the following rules and procedures are adopted. At the start of each regularly scheduled school committee meeting, individuals will sign up for an opportunity to speak during public comment. The public comment segment shall not exceed 15 minutes. All speakers are encouraged to present their remarks in a respectful manner. Speakers will be allowed up to 3 minutes to present their material and must begin their comments by stating their name and city town. The presiding chair may permit extension of this time limit in extenuating circumstances.
Topics for discussion should be limited to those items within the school committee's scope of authority. The authority of the school committee primarily concerns the review and approval of the budget of the district public schools, the performance of the superintendent, and the educational goals and policies of the district's public schools. Comments and complaints regarding school personnel, apart from the superintendent or students, are generally prohibited unless those comments and complaints concern matters within the scope of the school committee authority. The chair of the meeting, after a warning, reserves the right to terminate speech, which is not constitutionally protected because it constitutes true threats that are likely to provoke a violent reaction and cause a breach of the peace or incitement to imminent lawless conduct or contains obscenities. Written comments longer than 3 minutes may be presented to the presiding chair before or after the meeting. All remarks will be addressed through the chair of the meeting. Comments made during public comment portion of the meeting do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Narragansett Regional School District School Committee. Sign up instructions will be provided to those who wish to participate. So the source for that is our policies as well as Mass General Law, Chapter 30A -20. So I did read only a portion of that was specific to the actual comment. But I did want to open it up and see if anyone from the public would like to offer any comment this evening.
My name is Bonnie Mahoney. I live right here on Wallenville Road in Templeton Center. I have 2 children that attend this high school. One is graduating this year. And then I have a sophomore. I'm very thankful to the things that were presented tonight because it actually addressed some of my questions that I had. I'm very thankful to hear about that music teacher, and I hope that's not the teacher that gets cut. I am also the president of the Narragansett Performing Arts Boosters. The music program and the arts program here at the high school and middle school are very near and dear to my heart. My son who's graduating is going on to music school. He hopes to do that in his professional life. His father hopes he makes money at it. I wanted to come and speak tonight because there have been some musings about we had our meeting last night of our boosters. We have a monthly meeting for the boosters. We meet here in the library. And there were some things that were said about the music program taking a back seat to honors classes. I was very happy to hear about the different honors classes that were increasing. My daughter is in the PLTW for biomed and she loves it. My son takes lots of AP classes, but obviously music is more near and dear to his heart. But the expression, the thing that was expressed at our meeting was that some of the students were being counseled on next year's classes that they are going to take, that they needed to prioritize honors classes above music because they got money. And which is why I'm presenting it to the budget committee, that the school gets more money for more students enrolled in honors classes, and the same is not true. I know this is hearsay, but it was a concern, especially for those of us who support the performing arts programs here in the district. So whether or not it's true, it's what the students are bringing back to their parents. So that these students were discouraged from signing up for music class in lieu of honors classes because it affected the budget. And so that is a big concern as a parent of a student who's wants to go on and do music in his life. And he takes honors classes, he takes AP classes. And it's always been a struggle because I was very glad to hear about more AP classes being offered and more honors classes being offered because oftentimes there's a scheduling conflict. A child wants to take a PLTW class, but it's only offered at the same time as a music class. So to have more choices means hopefully that it's not gonna, that conflict isn't going to arise. But to hear that students were being discouraged, and this came directly from a parent in our meeting. She confirmed what we heard from staff, that it was being expressed to the children that it affected the budget. Nobody wants to affect the budget, and I thought that was a terrible thing to put on the child. But like I said, I am very glad to hear some of the priorities that were presented tonight. And I did have a question that maybe you can't answer, but maybe that's something of the chairs committee that could, one thing I didn't hear tonight was 40 new houses. That is amazing. Well, that's also 40 new tax revenues. So why doesn't the town have enough money? And as far as the attendance at town meeting, I remember when we did the budget override a few years back, whatever years back that was. And it was defeated, and it was very crushing that it was defeated for those of us who were supporting it. And that town meeting was well attended because there was a lot of passion for getting that override going forward. And I think that same passion gets lost in the yearly in and outs of a budget. I work for a regional transit authority, so we too are dependent upon state budgets. And we're very thankful to the governor this year for actually supporting the transit authorities and for the state legislators supporting the transit authorities and giving us an increase that we haven't had in a very long time. We've suffered for many years under level funding. So I completely understand that for a school district to have to suffer the same things, which transportation is very important and it's essential to workers and children around the country, but so is the education of the children. So to hear level funding is really hard. And so I don't know what recourse or pushback we can do on the town or reminding them that there's all this new revenue because of these new houses. That if there's some way to maybe win that battle a little bit. That's thank you.
So I'm Martha Kushnick, and I am also a resident and a kindergarten teacher, and I'm here with my other fellow kindergarten colleagues. So I just want to share some of the struggles that we have every day in our kindergarten classrooms when we don't have extra support. So for instance, I'll start with safety. So simple tasks such as unpacking a backpack, using the bathroom, maneuvering around the classroom and or school is difficult with only one adult in the classroom. We have children leave the building without anyone knowing, have bathroom accidents, not be able to get into the bathroom without assistance because the bathroom doors in our classrooms are really heavy, and at the beginning of the year, they don't have strength to do it. We have behaviors that are taking place in the classrooms, and the teacher has to tend to those behaviors. And while doing so, other children in the classroom begin to have behaviors because the teacher does not have their eyes on them. 2 sets of eyes in every kindergarten classroom is necessary when you are dealing with kindergarten age children. Academic concerns. Kindergarten age children have an extremely short attention span. Trying to meet all student needs and give everyone help is very difficult with only one adult in the classroom. As kindergarten teachers, we want to help all our students and make sure that they are all able to correctly hold a pencil, for instance, manipulate a pair of scissors, write his or her name correctly, and meet the Massachusetts Common Core state standards. One example is teaching pencil grip. We have many students who need help to hold a pencil correctly. This might sound like a simple task, but when you have 20 or more kindergarten students and no help, it's not. We model practice, remind our students how to hold a pencil and go around, teach tables, and correct pencil grips. Yet as soon as you leave one table, go to the next, those pencil grips are back to full fist. Meanwhile, and please understand that it's not because the teacher doesn't have control over the class or can't make their way around. It's just because they're little and they need a lot of assistance. We're losing a lot of time on learning because we have to take time to deal with other things that may arise in the classroom. For example, phone ringing, spills, bathroom accidents, nurse visits, dismissals, washing tables, etc. For example, if we're teaching a lesson and a child can't open the bathroom door, we have to move away from the rug, go over to the bathroom, help them open the door. When we come back, we got to regain the class's attention. That's gonna be a struggle sometimes. Let's see. If we had a classroom paraprofessional, he or she can help either help the student that needs assistance, or they can take over, right, and keep the kids focused on what they need. that we don't have to keep stopping and starting up again when we are in the middle of teaching. We understand that the classroom paraprofessional's job is not just to do simple tasks in the classroom, but when we are trying to teach kindergarten age children, those simple tasks can easily interrupt the flow of our classroom very quickly and take time. And then the social emotional needs of our students, the training of procedures, routines, and expectations of behavior take place in kindergarten for many students. It is the first time that many students have set foot in a school learning environment, and everything needs to be taught, retaught, modeled over and over again. Setting these expectations in kindergarten helps the first grade teachers and beyond to teach these students. If we can't get those procedures, routines, and expectations down in kindergarten, it does affect these students in years to come. Let's help our early childhood students now succeed, not later on. Thank you.
Thank you all for everything you do. We really appreciate it. And again, the big concern from this side of the table is just as you said, if they don't get them basic learning skills in kindergarten, it's just gonna compound as they progress throughout the years. So, thank you.
We hear it from our fellow colleagues, so up the ladder. And a trickle of effects.
I just wanted to address the four of you. So when you so eloquently delivered your speech there, you started by saying what happens in a classroom when you don't have extra support. You're not asking for extra support, you're asking for just support. Extra would imply you are already being supported. Any kindergarten teacher, they were interviewing for a position and they heard there's no para in the classroom, they would leave. So the fact that you guys are here, and I know there's support going in and out, we cannot lose you. We cannot lose you. You're asking for the bare minimum to support children in your classroom. And I applaud you for everything you do every day. You are literally superheroes. I don't know how you control 5 and 6-year-olds the way that you do, but thank you.
Chris, anything in closing? All right, so with that said, we will close tonight's preliminary budget hearing, so I'd entertain a motion to close the hearing. Second. Motion by Hank, second by Heather. All in favor? Opposed, abstained, and I say yes, so the budget hearing is closed. So moving into our final areas of business. I don't believe there was anything not reasonably anticipated. School committee comments, is there anything that's outside of budget? I just want to be clear, we're done with the budget, so if there's any school committee comments that were outside of the budget, anything that anybody wanted to add?
The only thing I wanted to add, and it was because I missed the last meeting, was, and I wish the cheerleaders were still here. The camp that they ran over February break was phenomenal, and they had such a good turnout, and they did such a wonderful job. It was awesome to see the older warriors with the younger warriors, and it's those types of things are what keeps kids here.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes, of course, sorry. Wanted to highlight, because Bonnie said it so quick in her public comments, but the longstanding music boosters deliberated a lot this year about the definition of their organization and the scope. And, you know, they realized that a lot of these families who were in music, they were also in color guard, theater, you know, that really those parents were supporting all of the performing arts here at Gansett. So they, in inducting all their new leadership and such, and kind of refreshing the organization, they decided that they redrafted their bylaws and have retitled themselves the Performing Arts Boosters for Gansett. So as a theater parent, I want to say thank you for including us, because they were just kind of hanging out there in wings, you know, without a cheerleader to keep them involved. Anything else? Okay. So I'm gonna move into subcommittee reports. What I am gonna ask is that since this is a longer meeting, and I do know that we need executive session tonight, if everybody can try to do the 2 to 3 bullet points for each of the subcommittee updates, just to hit each thing on a high level. Finance and facilities, I think you've heard pretty much everything we have to say.
So I'm gonna move into district operations, and I think your meeting was rescheduled to next.
So we're gonna try to find a time that, not next week, the following week.
Okay.
To schedule it.
Great. Labor Management Committee, any updates, Sean or Heather?
We met yesterday, went great. Yeah, that labor management, with the IDEA was able to resume meetings and just wake up that conversation and keep it going, which is vital.
Yep, and I know we had a very positive, WEC meeting with UFCW as well. So again, keeping those meetings going, keeping the conversation going, all of which are key to making sure everybody is supported. So Shauna, how about CPAC updates?
A quick update is next meeting is April 1st, 6 p.m. here in the high school library.
Great. Kat, how about PTO?
Okay, I didn't bring this normally like I do, so let me think for a second. We're opening a new account for PTO. We are gonna get a second signature. We have a new fundraising out, which is Square One Arts. We are hosting ice skating on April 6th. Possibly from 3 to 5, it hasn't been totally confirmed, but yeah, it's gonna be up to 300 people can attend, at a time. We're gonna have carnival math night, possibly on May 7th from 5 to 7, pre-K through 4, and it's gonna definitely be here because of, space. And staff appreciation is coming up, and our next meeting is April 2nd at 5.
I am the liaison to the Student Advisory Council. So we had our meeting last month. Our next meeting will be, the next meeting I will attend, I should say, because they meet every month. Next meeting I will attend is in April, and we will be talking about athletics and how much it takes to host a game, and ticket fees, and kind of just doing, we're using them as sort of overall educational sessions to kind of help them dig into what are some of the things that school committee does and what's in our purview and what do they care about, and how does it connect to the things that they care about. So that's what April session will be. How about legislation, anything?
Boy, I'm dropping the ball with this one. So off the top of my head, I know that coming up, there'll be a lot of talk about the Thrive Act and the future of MCAS for graduation requirements. My world lately has been anything legislative related is kids at school talking about the ban on TikTok. That's all I have to report.
Great, thank you, everyone, and thank you for the quick summaries there. Just being considerate of time. So we do have a couple pieces of correspondence this week, so I will read those out. Just making sure I do this in the right order. So the first communication we have is from Katrina. And I apologize. Fulmio. Okay, thank you. Katrina says, hi, I wanted to reach out to you all about the current NRSD policy to to not allow any eighth graders to play high school sports. I am unsure who sets the policy or how the policy changed. Currently, there will be no JV softball team, even though the middle school teams for the past 2 years have had many students try out. That should translate to a strong program. I can speak to how keeping the eighth graders down affected my child and some of her friends. Last year, the middle school team had 17 or so kids, even after making cuts, which means many sat the bench. At the same time, there was a JV team that didn't have a pitcher and led to frustration for girls at the JV level, many choosing not to come back to play because of the lack of players the year before. The eighth graders didn't have the playing time they could have had and could have helped on the JV team. This year, many of the eighth grade girls have decided not to play, some because there will be no JV team. I know that one of my younger daughter's friends didn't even try to play because she told me she knew she wouldn't make the team because there was so many eighth graders. I don't understand why surrounding schools are able to have some eighth graders play middle school while others play high school. Why can't we adopt the same type of policy to include the most number of kids. Thank you so much for the information about this. And then the other letter was related to the same topic. The sender was Shelley. I don't have a last name. This one says, hi, would like to have a meeting with you regarding JV softball. I know another parent has reached out to you. The numbers are low this year. Other schools let eighth graders play when the numbers are low. We would like to know who made this rule. Thank you. So what I can just share in this moment is that this has been referred to Dr. Casavan. Dr. Casavan is planning to meet with these parents. This is not something that would typically fall under a school committee. So he's going to meet with the parents. So we've referred it to the superintendent essentially. So I just want to make sure everybody knew that, since I know that everyone on the school committee did receive the email. Okay, so the next meeting will be held on Wednesday, March 21st at 5:30 p.m. That will be our budget hearing. Our budget hearing will take place at 6 o'clock p.m. I'm seeing this Thursday. Sorry, it's Thursday. You're correct that I forgot. I found something I didn't edit, Susan. Thank you for the correction. It's Thursday, March 21st, at 5:30 p.m. And we are going into executive session. So I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session as per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21, reason number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation with UFCW and or the NVDA. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. The meeting will not return in open session. Meeting is following. Motion by Heather, second by Jack. Roll call.
Aye.
Sean.
Aye.
Yeah. Yes. Aye. And Jeff.
Yes.
And I say yes. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.